Yes, boys. Today's video: 5 bulking hacks that I wish I knew back in the day when I was trying to gain as much size as possible. If you're someone who's trying to gain as much size as possible and wants to do it the right way, or have that kind of those extra hacks, or that extra little bit of advantage to make sure you're doing things right and you're gaining lean muscle and you're not just gaining a load of excess fat, then watch this video through to the end and I'll kind of walk you through things I wish I knew that would most definitely help you. So let's get started, boys. Now, number one, and I'm not mental for this, hear me out. Keep your calories low to begin with and do not dirty bulk whatever you do. Do not listen to people who say you should dirty bulk. It's silly. It's fucking stupid. Now, you're probably thinking I'm mental, but hear me out. The reason why you want to keep your calories low to begin with is because you essentially are trying to gain as much weight as possible with the least amount of calories. And the reason why is because this actually ensures that the calories you are consuming are actually being used for your goal. They're not being stored. Because remember, if your body has an excess amount of calories, it does not know what to do with it. If it can't use it, it will store it. And what will it store it as? As fat. So if you blindly just increase your calories to just a ballpark figure such as 3,000, 3,500 with no actual understanding why, no correlation to what's going on with the scale, to your strength, then the likelihood is you're just going to be eating way too many calories that you actually need, and your body's going to store fat as a result, which is going to shorten your overall trajectory of the gaining phase of your bulk, and you're going to have to basically start a cut way too early, which is not ideal because you're going to spend less time in a phase where muscle growth is more favorable, and as a result, it's not going to be ideal. So really, you want to be making sure that you're gaining weight, but you're doing so with the least amount of calories. So the way I would do this, right, is just pretty much test. I would basically track myself every single day on the scale, and as long as I'm hitting around 0.2 to 0.6 kg per week, I know my calories are just exactly where they need to be. If it's crazy amounts more, and I would say do this after kind of 7 to 14 days before making any drastic changes, because there's glycogen that comes in when you first start out. So perhaps on week one, don't even kind of focus on the week one result. Focus on the first 2 weeks, because a spike in glycogen doesn't just count as weight gain. That's just kind of water retention. But if you're gaining around 0.2 to 0.6 kg, your calories are in a good spot. If for whatever reason it starts to plateau, then it could be a case of, right, let's increase by 100 or 200 or so. And doing it this way means you're not going to gain a load of excess fat, and you don't have to shorten your bulk too early, which is a big mistake. It's also a big mistake dirty bulking, and that's for the exact reason. Why? Because you store so much body fat, and then you will have to pretty much start your cut way earlier than expected. And as a result, you're not going to be gaining muscle in that cut, and you're just going to be removing a load of body fat that you shouldn't have even put on in the first place. So if you stay disciplined from the get-go and you follow my tips, and you just implement a degree of patience into your life, it will change everything. And that's something I wish I knew. Not many people do this. So if you do that, that's going to really, really help you. And that's definitely tip number one. Now, step number two. It really depends on who you are. But I would say choose your foods correctly. And the reason why is because the more calories we consume, the fuller we are going to become. And if you're someone who has a low appetite, it's going to be difficult to eat a large amount of calories, especially when we get towards the kind of tail end of the bulk and now you're eating, 3,500, 4,000 calories. This is a lot. It becomes a full-time job. So it's your job to make sure that you're programming in foods that really kind of do work with your body, and make sure that you're not kind of putting yourself under too much stress. So what I would recommend is eat foods that are low satiating, so that will not fill you up, but are higher in calories. Now, the first kind of step I would do is using fats as a tool here. Fats are a perfect example because 9 calories per gram of fat, which is really, really useful, and you can get a lot of calories from these. So a perfect example would be such avocado, nuts, olive oil. Olive oil is a perfect example. If you get really high quality extra virgin olive oil, you can just literally add in calories to meals such as pasta, chicken and rice, or whatever. But you don't want to go overboard with them, because realistically, studies suggest that you want around 30% of your total calories as fats. The rest should be carbohydrate, especially for performance. You're going to get the most of your kind of muscle growth from using a lot of carbohydrates in your diet as opposed to just loading up on fats. So I would keep fats at 30% and use that as the initial tool. Then your next step would be to look for higher calorie, low satiating carbohydrates. Now, I'm just going to tell you the two that are best, and it's pasta and oats. So I wouldn't be just eating a bunch of rice, because if we look at kind of 250 gram of rice, which is one microwave packet, you're looking at around 400 calories or so, which is fairly good. But then you compare 200 gram of pasta and it's about 800 calories or so. And the difference isn't that much in kind of the volume. Like you can eat quite a lot of pasta. So I'd be using pasta as a tool. The same goes for like rice and potatoes. Rice and potatoes is really good for when you're cutting. Helps you maintain hunger. But in a bulking phase, really want to be switching to pasta. So I'll be saying do that. And then also oats. Oats is another really good one. Very high in carbohydrates, but low in satiation. It doesn't fill you up as much. And you can be having these tools twice a day. So you can be having 2 meals of pasta in, you can be having 2 meals of oats, one shake, and you can have one kind of porridge oats in the morning. You can also be using other certain foods. So there's a few more kind of off the top of the head. You've got dates. Dates are really, really good. High in calories, really, really good for you, and really high in carbs. And you can be using all of these just to help you out. So it's a case of obviously looking into them. If you want to know the actual foods, just like hit me up or DM me and I can kind of walk you through them. But that's kind of what I would say. Make sure you're choosing the right foods, because if you're choosing the wrong foods, for example, if you were to get all your carbohydrates from fruit and veg, it's silly. That's what we do in a cut to make sure that your hunger is in a good spot. But when you're trying to pack on a load of calories and you're eating silly amounts of fruit and vegetable, it doesn't make sense. So be smart with that. And also understand liquid calories help here. Like one bulking shake per day, especially when you're consuming a lot, would definitely do wonders. Another thing I wish I knew is just like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you've got a meal that's working, have it twice in a day. For example, if you're having like some protein oats in the morning and you're getting some really, really good calories from them and you're finding that's really helping you dent your diet, and just have them again later. Perhaps a bulking shake so you can get a little bit of variation. That's something that I wish I did, rather than just creating loads of silly variation that would essentially create a lot more friction. If you can find something that you like and it's easy, stick to that. But make sure you're choosing the foods correctly, and it's going to help you and it's going to actually make sure you hit your goals in terms of your calories. Now, next is obviously meal timing and when to eat. So just as like when we're in a deficit, we want to kind of push our first meal back later so we have more calories towards the back end of the day. I understand for people with low appetite, and this was me, it becomes kind of harder to fit in all our calories. So really we want to start eating as early as possible. Now personally I like to fast first 2 hours of the day, so I wouldn't recommend eating just then. It really depends on who you are. But I would recommend eating as early as possible. If you want to fast a little bit, then maybe 1 to 2 hours. If you want to eat straight away, be my guest. But the main lesson that I wish I knew was just kind of eating every 2 or 3 hours. If you don't do this, you will often find yourself around 1,500 calories left to consume come 10 p.m. and that is not good. Your sleep's going to be in the bin, and oftentimes you just don't really actually end up having the food because you just want to go to bed. So be regimented with this. Have your food every 2 or 3 hours. Treat it like your full-time job, and really just create a meal plan that just allows you to do this with ease. Like if you know you're going to be working throughout the day and you're going to be really busy, then don't be setting loads of silly meals that you need to be cooking unless you've meal prepped them. Have this kind of strategy in place and prepare what can be prepared. Be regimented with it. If you're really struggling with this, set an alarm. Like have an alarm. You can do it on your app, on your phone. All those apps you can use that will really help you with this. But if you're eating every 2 or 3 hours, it's going to massively help you with bulk. If you go longer than this, I guarantee you will find it hard. So follow those initial 3 tips. 1, keep the calories low to begin with, and that way everything will be nice and smooth. You'll be gaining muscle without much fat. Then make sure you're choosing the right foods as you kind of progress into bulk. That way you're keeping hunger in a good spot and appetite's not going in the bin. Third of all, make sure you're actually sticking to proper meal timing, and that way you're always going to get your calories in. You're never going to struggle with that. And number 4, so that's obviously what we're talking about in terms of nutrition. Now 4 is something people don't speak about, but it's like, why do we actually eat all of these excess calories? Do they just get us big? No. Like, you need to have training intensity down as well. At the end of the day, what you're doing when you're training is you're trying to stimulate as much growth as possible, and these excess calories are coming in to fuel that performance. So it's all fun and games increasing our calories, but if our training isn't improving, if we're not getting actually better training, and if we're not completing everything to the best standard, then all that food is just going to waste. It's not needed, very simply. So it's not just the food that gets you big, but it's your training intensity. So make sure you're prioritizing this and you're getting strong. I would say review your form and make sure that you're hitting your sets and your reps with complete accuracy, and you're respecting the tempo and the form. You're making sure that you're not just lifting the weight from A to B, but you're really, really focusing on how you actually lift the weight from A to B. Really, really good way to do things. Just 3-4 seconds down. Like on a certain movement, say you're on bench press, chest press, shoulder press, you just come in 1, 2, 3, 4, slow up, and everything nice and controlled. Don't be rushing things. Really, really be focusing on your tempo. And if you're progressing your lifts, the weight, the reps every single week with this form, you're going to get stronger quicker. And that's your main goal, right? You want to be focusing on getting stronger. Progressively overloading and putting all of your focus, all your effort into getting strong. If you do that whilst implementing kind of a higher calorie diet and having this surplus, you are in such a good position to grow muscle. But this is really, really crucial to understand. If you just think calories are going to save you and just eating loads is going to get you big, that's not how things work. At the end of the day, you're eating to fuel your performance, so your performance needs to be getting better as well. And you need to be making sure, and if you want the kind of blunt end of it, it's just a case of controlling everything. People just rush their movements way too much, and it's all about time under tension. That's the key driver of hypertrophy. If you're going to grow your muscles, you need to slow everything down, and you need to make sure that you're pushing all the way to complete failure. So we've got a rep range of 8 to 12. We're doing a weight that challenge us to fail within that rep range, and if for whatever reason we go over 12 reps and we just keep going until we fail and we load up the weight next time, but we make sure that we're just really, really pushing and we're focusing on training. People always tell me that training's like 10 out of 10, they don't need to worry about it, they're just struggling with diet. At the end of the day, you need both. So make sure you do that, and you'll gain a lot of size in your bulking phase. And finally, one that not many people talk about, but throwing in cardio. I'd say 1 to 3 times per week. You don't want to be doing too much, but cardio doesn't kill your gains, right? It's all just calories in, calories out. If you burn X amount of calories in cardio, let's say you go for a run, 5K, you burn 500 calories, just eat the calories back, very simply. And the reason why we're doing the cardio, right, is for a few reasons. One, obviously cardiovascular function. So studies literally suggest that you need around 120 minutes to 150 minutes per week for overall heart health. I imagine you're in the gym to obviously get big, reach your full potential, get better. At the end of the day, if your heart is not in the right place and you're not actually improving in that aspect, then you have to ask yourself, what are you doing? Do you really want to just become bigger, or do you want to become fitter as well? Everyone neglects it, but as time goes on, you do want to make sure that you are just improving your base level of fitness. This will also actually impact how much you can lift, because there will be certain exercises where you're doing more reps. Perhaps you might be challenging the muscle in the 12 to 15 rep range or 15 to 20. And if your heart and your cardiovascular function isn't where it needs to be, then that actually might be a limiting factor as to how much weight you can lift, simply because you become out of breath. So it's always going to benefit you. Not to mention the psychological benefits. Like, you feel amazing when you do cardio, and it's truly a life hack. Like, I do cardio every single day, and I feel amazing. I look forward to my cardio. So it honestly should not be neglected. Really, 1 to 3 times per week, depending on kind of your schedule. And it also just kind of acts as a bit of a safety mechanism to overconsumption. So if you want to kind of overeat, if you want to go out, for that dinner, go a little bit kind of off plan here and there, you've got more leeway to do so in a surplus. Why? You've got more calories to play with. But for whatever reason you do go over, you can kind of use that cardio to just bring you back down to base level. And it allows you to kind of just have a little bit of fun with things, and also improve your fitness. So it's 2 birds, 1 stone. I'd highly recommend it. Not to mention, it's really going to help with recovery. If you've done some excruciating leg days and the DOMs are pretty bad, and cardio is always going to help with recovery. Just some low intensity stuff. I wouldn't say, be doing a fucking high rocks on your rest days. That's not very smart. But just, a nice run, Stairmaster, whatever it is. Just get the heart BPM up. It's all going to help you. And if you just implement these 5 tips, no one really taught me these. This will really, really help you with your bulk. This is a requested video. So I hope if you are in a bulk and you're wanting to gain as much size as possible, you use these tips and hopefully find those useful. Any sort of questions, let me know, guys. But other than that, hope all is well. Back again tomorrow. All the best. Catch you on the next one.